Hey guys, Ali Duzette here, and this is Things to Know About Mercury Retrograde, April 2024. Mercury just went retrograde, and let's talk about it. What does it even mean for Mercury to go retrograde? What it means is that from our perspective on the Earth, it appears that Mercury is moving backwards. Mercury is not actually moving backwards, but from our perspective on this planet, when we look up at the sky, it looks like Mercury is moving backwards. That is because of the motion of our planet and all the other planets, and you can go and find other videos that will give you a visual of this. But just to be clear, Mercury is not actually going backwards. This is a perspective thing. When Mercury appears to move backwards, it is called going retrograde. And we actually get a few Mercury retrogrades every single year. Pretty much every single planet goes retrograde at one time or another, and it just depends on the orbit of that planet and how it appears to be moving from our perspective. Mercury is definitely the planet that goes retrograde the most often. We get a couple Mercury retrogrades every year. We get a Venus retrograde about once every 18 months, I think, and a Mars retrograde about once every 2.5 years. And then we have, some of these planets that are further out that will be retrograde for months at a time. I mean, Pluto, Uranus, they can be retrograde for a long time. But today we're talking about Mercury. So what does it mean for Mercury to be retrograde? The first thing we have to do is understand what Mercury is symbolic of. Mercury is symbolic of your thoughts, your communication, talking, short travel, day-to-day relationships and activities. Mercury takes things apart and puts them back together again, particularly mentally. And Mercury is very much symbolic of your mind. So when any planet goes retrograde, it's an invitation to rethink. Every retrograde gives us a chance to reevaluate the stuff going on with whatever planet it is that is going retrograde. But with Mercury in specific, Mercury gets us to rethink our own thoughts, reevaluate our own thoughts, reconsider our own thoughts. We're going to rethink, reevaluate, and reconsider our thinking, our communication, our talking, the places that we're going as part of our normal day, day-to-day relationships, day-to-day activities, the things that need to be taken apart and put back together again. Basically, the one reason why Mercury retrograde gets a lot of press, I guess, is because it is both very common, happening a couple times a year, but it's very famous for during Mercury retrograde, a lot of times people experience things breaking in their lives. I mean, like literally, like their fridge might break or their sink might break or something like that. And also relationships show up and we get to reevaluate those. Basically, during Mercury retrograde, you will just see it for yourself. If you pay attention, just tell yourself like this time I'm going to pay attention to how Mercury retrograde shows up in my life. Mercury retrograde lasts for about 3 weeks. It's like 20, 21 days usually. I haven't looked at the final date of this exact one, but for the next 3 weeks, I'm inviting you to just pay attention to where you're being asked to reconsider things in your life and where things are breaking down. And I want to just remind you that when things do break down, anytime that they're breaking down, it's not a personal revenge on you from the universe or something like that. Um, Everything that breaks down in our lives is really doing that to give us an opportunity for something better and something different. And our power comes when we decide that we're going to trust God with that instead of going into scarcity mode and freaking out. This is an opportunity to practice faith. So if you experience any things breaking down during Mercury retrograde, take your deep breath and just trust that it's all for your greater good and that things are going to work out for you. This is a great time to reconsider anything and everything. And you do not have to do this on purpose. You are going to see for yourself how over the next 3 weeks, things naturally show up in your life that invite you to rethink decisions that you have made in the past and decisions that you are in the process of making. Mercury retrograde is absolutely famous for communication from exes. And so I have this little warning here, don't be that ex. So many times during Mercury retrograde, people just naturally find themselves naturally rethinking and reconsidering their day-to-day relationships in the present and day-to-day relationships that they've had in the past. And so it is incredible how often people really do end up texting their exes or getting texted by their exes. And just at the last Mercury retrograde that there was, I had like three guys reach out to me during that Mercury retrograde. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, how is this real? But like I know that it's real, but like seriously, I didn't even date that much. I got married when I was 20. I'm like, what is this? It's Mercury retrograde. It's just real. It just happens. So anyway, it's okay if exes text you, just don't text them back and don't be that ex, please. I mean, guess what? Do whatever you want. Listen to the spirit, but I'm gonna recommend not opening up those cans of worms. These are the traditional warnings about Mercury retrograde. A lot of people say not to sign contracts during Mercury retrograde in particular, and just to generally not make big decisions during this time because it is a time for rethinking and not like it's basically not really a great season to be starting new things. It's a time to be reevaluating old things. Um, but for me personally, I personally feel like we are the ultimate agents of our lives and that we shouldn't let the stars dictate everything that we do. For me personally, I'm aware of Mercury retrogrades, but I just kind of live my life like a normal person. I don't know. I don't sit there and like calculate when is going to be the greatest time to make a decision in my life. I just make my decisions. For me, I feel like the most important thing is not the placement of the planets at any given moment, but our own personal alignment with our creator and our own intuition. If you feel like God and your body are in agreement about whatever, then I think that you should do it even if it is during Mercury retrograde. A couple of Mercury retrogrades ago, I found myself in the terrible position of needing to buy a new car. And I don't know, you just do what you have to do. And I thought, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. I know I'm not supposed to buy a new car during Mercury retrograde. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot be a person like that. I have to just trust that God has it under control and everything's fine. And I just need to trust my gut and just move forward with my life, no matter what the heavens are up to. And I just kind of prayed about it, felt good about the car that I bought, and it's my car. I don't know. It's been going strong for a couple of years now, and so far so good. I think it is really fine to sign some contracts. I think it is fine to make big decisions during Mercury retrograde. The biggest trick is just being sure that you are in alignment with our creator. We just need to be sure about the things that we're stepping into, because if we're feeling wishy-washy feelings, if we're feeling indecision type of feelings, then that can be a message from Mercury retrograde to keep rethinking about it. Um, but if you're feeling good and solid about something, my opinion is jump into it and just do it. If you feel like God and your body say it's cool, then just do it. Interesting. If you were born during a Mercury retrograde, first off, you can tell this because if you run your chart, it will be noted on the star chart, usually with a little RX notation in red underneath the glyph for Mercury. Or if it prints you out a little thing that says, your sun is in, Aquarius, your Mercury is in whatever, it's retrograde, it'll usually say. If you were born during Mercury retrograde, first off, your entire life will kind of feel like you live inside of Mercury retrograde, where you will feel like a constant theme of your life is having to rethink a lot of things. And Mercury retrograde is often associated with trouble communicating and communicating accurately. It can lead to a lot of misunderstandings. And when you were born under Mercury retrograde, a lot of people who are born in that placement do say that they do feel like their own lives are marked by a struggle to communicate. I'm not going to say that that's like your ultimate destiny if you have Mercury retrograde in your chart. But just to say that a lot of people do feel like they experience that. And it's just kind of your own, you know, little thing in your life that, we all have weird stuff in our life that we are here to learn how to deal with. And so um, it's just an extra level of of flavor that you get to work through as you learn to communicate in the way that you want to communicate in your life. But if you're born during a Mercury retrograde, when actual Mercury retrograde happens in real time, a lot of times people who were born during a Mercury retrograde feel awesome and they feel like they're able to communicate more clearly than ever. They feel like they're thinking more clearly than ever. It's because on a planetary level, like the planetary weather has just totally aligned with your natural energy and it's just very, very supportive for you. So if you're feeling very excellent during Mercury retrograde, it may be because you were born during Mercury retrograde and that's kind of fun. So that would be very great for you. So this is the chart of the upcoming eclipse. I ran it from Carbondale, Illinois, which is the X marks the spot between this eclipse and the 2017 eclipse. So you can see right here, this little guy, that purple guy is Mercury, and this RX down here is retrograde. And that's how we look at a chart like this and say, aha, Mercury has gone retrograde. Now, first off, we notice it's in Aries, this red guy, and the second thing we notice is it's right next to the eclipse. It is 5 degrees away, which is pretty close to the sun. The sun has what we call an orb of 10 degrees, which means that anything within 10 degrees of it on either side is like close enough to be very influenced. Or they're influential on each other. Mercury's going to be influencing the sun's going to be influencing Mercury in a much more thorough way than, you know, these guys are pretty far away. These guys are pretty far away. So, what does this mean? To me, I'm looking at this and thinking, okay, the opportunity to rethink and a focus on our communication and especially on miscommunication. This is going to be one theme of this upcoming eclipse that's going to be affecting everybody. Okay. Aries is kind of famous for taking action without thinking. It's the beginner of the chart. It loves to start new things, but it doesn't always love to finish them. It is a fire sign and it loves to like burn through, it burns through things, which is not bad. It doesn't have to be bad. You know, if you have your moon in Aries, you probably feel your emotions very extremely, but they just burn right up. You know, you feel it so big, it burns right up, and you're probably not one to hold oh my gosh, I'm sorry, to hold grudges. But I'm sorry, I lost my thought. Aries energy tends not to hold grudges. It tends to just burn right through its emotions. So having Mercury, our thinker and talker and communicator in Aries, is going to invite us to speak without thinking. It may lead to us speaking in haste or anger. There may be a mental tendency to sudden emotion, a mental tendency to burn through many thoughts and just have your brain going pretty fast. We may find ourselves fixating on regrets and things we are angry about. This is a very fiery placement of Mercury. Because it is right next to the sun during the solar eclipse, we're being invited to be reborn in how we communicate with other people and how we think. And one thing I want to point out about this is that this is just kind of like the weather, but it really is not in charge of what we actually do. If it's raining outside, you can look at that and say, aha, I think I will pack an umbrella. I think I'll put on my rain boots. I think that I will not, I don't know, put on a ton of sunscreen to go out in the rain, you know. Um, but you can make a choice, you know, you get to choose what you do. So even though the planetary weather is very supportive of this kind of stuff, you are the boss of your life and you are qualified to say, aha, no, I know that I might be a little bit more prone to speak angrily right now, and I don't want to speak like that to the people that I love, so I'm going to choose not to. Okay, we still have a choice, and I strongly encourage us all to use that choice. I think that's a great idea. Our thoughts are things. As a man thinketh, so is he. Mercury retrograde helps us find clarity on where our thoughts have led to situations that need to change. This eclipse is inviting us to notice the blind spot that we have in our own communication and with our own past choices, the things that we need to revisit. So the big question that you don't have to do anything about this, but what do we need to change? We're going to see how in the next 3 weeks things are going to just magically plop onto our laps that are going to remind us of things that we've done in the past that we need to do differently, things that we need to make right, that we perhaps did wrong before. We're going to see where we need to communicate more clearly. These things are just going to show up for us and invite us to take action in a different way. So these are some of the things going on with Mercury retrograde. I wanted to invite you guys to head over to my website, allydozetclasses.com. And as I was scrolling through, I was asking myself, like, what class should I recommend for today? And I'm going to invite you to use your intuition and just see if anything stands out to you. But I think I'm going to try and schedule a communication session, which I don't think I have yet. So I'm going to schedule that and put below when it is as soon as I have it scheduled. But hopefully that will help us all get through Mercury retrograde as positively as possible. And thank you guys for being here. I hope you have a great day.